Hello, hope you're doing well. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that this video is part of the Bards4Bards 2021 charity drive. If you haven't heard of it before, Bards4Bards is a community-driven charity event in support of Artist Relief Tree, a charity that provides aid to creatives who have been affected by the pandemic. And this video in particular is actually a speed paint of some characters that myself and the rest of the Shrieking Wizard Co. played during our very own Bard-themed D&D one-shot. We recorded the whole game as part of this charity drive, and you can actually go and watch it right now over on the Shrieking Wizard Co. channel. There are going to be links in all the usual places for you to go and check out the one-shot that these characters are from. A lot of you guys who watch High Hopes have been asking for ages to see us actually playing a game, and we're working really hard to put out new episodes of this one every Friday of this month. So I really do hope you'll tune in and check them out. They are just absolutely bonkers. We really went all out with it, so yeah, it's a good time. And of course, it'd be really amazing if any of these videos make you smile, that you please consider paying that joy forward and making a donation to the Artist Relief Tree. All the relevant links to do that can also be found down in the description, along with links to the official Bards4Bards Twitter, where you can stay updated on all the events happening throughout the month. There are a lot of really great D&D content creators taking part, so it's definitely worth checking out. Anyway, for now, I'd love to tell you a bit more about this band of crazy characters we've got here, so let's get started. So, like I said, these characters that I'm drawing today were all made for a Dungeons & Dragons one-shot game that me and my friends played in order to contribute to this whole Bards4Bards event. Because of that, we thought it might be fun to take inspiration for our characters from the event itself, and roll up an entire party of level 4 bards. The thing is though, the game that Jenny rolled up for us to play wasn't set in your typical high fantasy Dungeons & Dragons kind of setting. Instead, it took place in a very wacky television station called Teve TV. A much more modern location that meant that we could really branch out and get a bit more creative with our character ideas. Now, while Jenny did the dungeon mastering, there were 5 of us playing, and there's no particular order that I feel like would be best to show you guys these characters in, so I'm just going to go ahead and do these in the order that I drew them. Which means that first up is actually my own character, Walter Mellons. The S is silent, but only sometimes. Since we knew this game was going to be taking place in a TV station, we wanted all of our characters to fill out a range of different roles as cast and crew. So I decided to make Walter into Teve TV's resident comedian/game show host. And in order to properly make use of a comedic silver tongue, I built his character sheet as a bard from the College of Eloquence, which is apparently from one of the newer source books, but you know me, I'm not really good at keeping up with the actual technical side of D&D, so I don't really know. I always find it funny when a character's personality doesn't match their appearance or job description, so when it came to actually playing him, he ended up as this chronically tired, super deadpan kind of guy who just does not fit the bill of a happy-go-lucky game show host in any way. He was really fun to play, and when it came to drawing his character artwork, I wanted to reflect that personality in his appearance. You should be able to see his little concept sketch on the side of the screen here, and actually while we're on that note, I just want to make it clear that everybody designed their own player characters for this game. Like, all of us drew a little concept sketch like that of our own characters before we played the one-shot. You'll see them as we go through this video, but basically, Walter is the only character whose visual design I came up with personally. All the rest of the characters you're going to see me drawing today were entirely thought up by my very talented friends, and these versions that I'm drawing here are just some kind of uniform sprites that I volunteered to do so that everybody would have the same visual style in the final cut of these episodes that we're putting out. Anyway, bit of a lengthy behind-the-scenes tangent there, sorry about that, but yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody gets their proper design credit. Anyway, yeah, in terms of this sprite, I pretty much just redrew Walter's pose here directly from that first concept sketch I drew, because the pose just felt very spot on for the kind of vibe he ended up having in the actual game. I also gave him an old-timey microphone and plenty of dark shadows under his eyes. When it came to choosing a color scheme, I actually tried out a couple of different combinations of opposing colors, like blue and orange or purple and yellow, but pink and green ended up being the winning combination. There's no particular reason why, I just kind of thought that it looked the best. Plus, it ended up inspiring his name, because I thought it made him look like a watermelon, and that was really funny to me. There was also a running gag throughout the game about Walter's outfit and the fact that it is just so unbelievably sparkly, so honestly the majority of the time I spent colouring this drawing was in fact just spent applying all of those sparkles. Anyway, that's our first character all done here, so let's move along to the next bard. This next colourful character was thought up by Amy. His name is David Bettany, and he is a bard from the College of Whispers subclass who acts as Teve TV's resident music/travel/wedding fashion correspondent. You know, thinking about it now, it might be better to just describe him as the diva of Teve TV. He's a bit of a jack of all trades, is our David, but by God is he one hell of an enjoyable character to play alongside. To be fair though, I could say that about all of Amy's characters and just Amy in general. Like, we could be talking for all of about a minute and I'll end up cracking up with laughter, so needless to say, it was very fun to see her go full-on goblin mode for this one-shot. It was very entertaining. Anyway, to the best of my knowledge, this character's name came about by combining Paul Bettany and I think David Bowie, but Amy might need to correct me on that. And like I said, he is just an absolute mad lad. You should be able to see his little concept doodle on the screen right now, and let me tell you, I cannot express enough just how much I love this drawing of him. Like, look at him, he's just a little guy. He's just a simple little guy who looks like he's about to commit crimes. So expressive, I love it. Amy did describe him in a bit more detail at one point in the game though, and said he was rocking this like retro shaggy hairstyle and piercings all over the place and just the tightest leather pants you have ever seen. So I pretty much just tried to incorporate all of those elements into my drawing of him here. For the pose, like I said, he's a very festive kind of guy, loves a good show, a lot of energy, so I ended up drawing him looking pretty dynamic and throwing a bit of confetti. He also ended up having a really zany expression, which is always very fun to draw. Amy was also kind enough to specify that he always has his shades on all the time, never takes them off, which I was very happy to hear because it meant I had to draw one less pair of eyes. Much like with the excessively sparkly outfit of Walter Melon's, there was also a running gag about the size of David Bettany's platform heels changing every time you looked at him. So, in this artwork, I ended up giving him a pair of platforms with a kind of go-go gadget cherry picker kind of winch attachment on the bottom. Like I said, there was a lot of room to really branch out from the norm with our character concepts for this game, and by golly did we all take that notion and run with it. I really enjoyed doing the colouring for David Bettany because, for one thing, characters with unusual fantasy skin tones like green and pink and blue and all of that are always really interesting to try and balance a colour palette around. But for another thing, between his hair and his shades and all of the leather that he's wearing, I got to play around with a more sharp and shiny way of filling in the highlights than I would normally use. So yeah, that was pretty fun. I do enjoy a good little style experiment every now and then. Anyway, that's this funky little man just about done, so let's go ahead and meet the next member of the Teve TV crew. Next up, we come to the hard-boiled detective known as Dick Merriweather. He is a bard from the College of Law who acts as the main brain behind Teve TV's true crime show called Dogwatch, and he is the character that Matt plays. He's also definitely a human, and not three small creatures stacked on top of each other inside a trench coat. I mean, you know, why would you even think that? Matt's imagination when it comes to making characters and coming up with really out-of-the-box in-game ideas on the fly is something that sparks a lot of joy and brings a lot of laughter to the table whenever we play. And I think Dick Merriweather was very much an embodiment of that kind of energy. Once again, I'm going to direct your attention to the original concept drawing on the side here because once again, I just absolutely love it. Look at that face. Look at both of those faces. Outstanding. Also, I know I've already mentioned plenty of times that these characters are part of a game that you can actually go and watch, but I do want to say I don't know which episode it's going to end up being in exactly, but there is one particular exchange that Matt had with an NPC while he was playing this character that I cannot put into words how excited I am for y'all to see it because it was one of the funniest exchanges I've ever seen. Although to be fair, that rank of funniest exchange was quickly overtaken by the next interaction that he had with that very same NPC, so Anyway, back to the actual drawing process here. Dick Merriweather was a really fun change of pace when it came to actually drawing him because I didn't need to worry about figuring out his anatomy in any proper kind of way. He ended up being about 99% trench coat and 1% faces covered in shadow that I could make up of completely geometric shapes, which was a design feature that I very much appreciated. It made my life a whole lot easier while I was trying to draw him. Dick Merriweather was also, I think, the character that took the least time to colour out of this bunch, mostly because we all imagined him having more or less just a black and white appearance like something out of an old film noir movie. Or indeed, if you've seen Into the Spider-Verse, something like Spidey Noir. I do remember needing to shift the hue of his grayscale palette a couple of times while I was colouring him though, just to make it so that it wasn't completely devoid of any warmth or like undertone at all. I don't know quite how to phrase that in order for it to make total sense, since obviously, yeah, his design is black and white, but like, I just didn't want him to be completely black and white and desaturated since all of the other characters are very heavily saturated, and I didn't want him to end up standing out for the wrong reason by looking like he belonged in a completely different setting and a completely different art style. Basically, Dick Merriweather can have an orange color correction overlay at 10% opacity as a treat. I also think it's while I was drawing this character that I realized the way I was coloring them all and doing the shading had been unconsciously getting more detailed and complicated the more of these drawings I got through. Maybe it was just easier to notice how much detail I was putting into the shadows on this one because of how limited the palette was, I don't know. But yeah, any of the more eagle-eyed among you might notice that despite my best efforts to keep all of these sprites nice and simple, the level of detail only tends to increase the further we get into this video. Anyway, with that in mind, that is one more character down, so let's move along and meet the next member of the crew. So before I even get started talking about this next one, I must confess I did mess up the recording a bit when I was drawing her, which was a real shame because I was literally just thinking about how happy I was with how the sketch was going when I looked down and realized I'd accidentally forgotten to unpause my recording software. Basically, I accidentally managed to skip over the entire first chunk of the sketch process on this one. At first, I was going to go back and redraw it from scratch so that you guys could see the entire process, but like I said, I was really happy with how the sketch was going by the time I realized anything was amiss, so I just didn't want to get rid of all that progress. Hopefully you guys don't mind too much that I kinda just picked it up from the middle. Anyway, technical difficulties aside, let me introduce you to Lana Gray. She is Beth's character, and she is a bard who hails from the College of Creation, which I think is another one of those new ones. She also works as the Teve TV intern and is often roped in to help out with various things and even to be an extra on various understaffed programs at the station, which is the reason behind this very unique outfit choice, in case you're wondering. As tends to be the case with many of Beth's characters, Alana is also something of a voice of reason, or at least certainly a voice of logic among the group, especially when compared to some of the other characters that you've already seen here, which is always something that's appreciated and oftentimes something that is very much needed around our game table because we are, well, just a bunch of hooligans, honestly. I remember when Beth first sent her concept sketch for Lana to our, group chat, we all just absolutely loved it. I don't know whether it was the primary coloured palette, or the clown costume, or just the overall vibe, but she just looked like a really cute and really fun character, so I was very excited to have a go at drawing her. In the end, Alana took the longest time to draw out of all of these characters, even with a chunk of the recording missing, which is usually what I use to measure how long these drawings take. And I think that's down to a mix of her costume being the most colourful and detailed, but also the fact that because of how colourful her outfit is, it took a little while to find a colour that I could use for the shading that wouldn't clash with any of the other colours that feature in her design. I gotta say again though, I did really enjoy working with this palette. Beth has a crazy good eye for colour combinations, and the fact that this costume was made up of so many strong primary colours, but dialed down to be kind of pastel in places and a bit more bold in others, was something that just clicked really well for me. I think it's a really nice combination to look at. Overall, I think it turned out pretty alright, and I've got to say I did really enjoy doing the face paint that she has on as well. It made for a real change of pace compared to the way that I'm used to doing faces. Also, I would just like to take a moment to point out the other feature of her design that I absolutely love, which is the puns on the coffee cups that she's carrying. It's all about the little details, you know? Anyway, that is the fourth character out of this batch of 5 all finished up, So without further ado, let's move right along to the final and perhaps most chaotic member of the crew. Alrighty, so last but by no means least, we have Jazz's unforgettable character, Boric Jackson, an interviewer and talk show host who, much like Dick Merriweather, learned his skills from the College of Law, and who was totally not created as a parody combination of Gilderoy Lockhart and UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, and I know I'm biased when I say this, but if you haven't already seen the first episode of this one-shot, it is worth watching just for the experience that is Boric Jackson. Jazz absolutely stole the show while playing him. She's such a funny person anyway, but he is just such a hilarious, immensely cursed character, and we're all pretty sure that by the time we were done recording, Jazz had just been fully possessed by the spirit of him after playing him for so many hours. And I realize a lot of this video has basically just been me complimenting my friends, but you're gonna have to bear with me one more time on that front, because I also want to shout out the fact that Jazz went all in on making a slideshow that you can actually see at one point in the episode that just had all of us crying with laughter. So yeah, once again, Jazz is just #1 funny man confirmed, and she really pulled out all the stops with this guy. In terms of his design, Jazz's concept sketch, you know, actually I think she sent it to me while I was in the waiting room at the doctor's office, and I remember I had to try really hard not to just bust out laughing at the sight of it, because again, just her mind, man, I don't know how she comes up with this stuff, but it really made me laugh. Just chef's kiss, you know, beautiful stuff. Anyway, yeah, his design was pretty much, like I say, a combination of the two well-known idiots who inspired his creation. And she did specify as well that he had very messy hair, bushy eyebrows, and a very red nose and ears. So I tried to include all of those details while working on this piece. He also had this very neutral brown and yellow color palette with a few blue highlights, and it was nice to work with that kind of combination of warm and cool tones while coloring him. Much like some of the other characters in this crew, Boric also ended up having his own running gag throughout the game, which was that he was completely inept at ironing his own clothes, which made him look a bit of a mess. So while I was working on his character sprite here, I made sure to include lots of extra line work and shading detail to show off the creases in his outfit and make him look much more disheveled. I also added a few scuffs and stains here and there, because if he's not doing the ironing, then he's probably not doing any laundry either. Now, before we finish this up, I know I do a lot of character art here on the channel, and a lot of the time you guys tend to ask how to come up with character designs for D&D and stuff like that, so hopefully seeing all of the characters and designs and ideas coming together in this speed paint gives you a good idea of just how unique and outside the box you can get when making your own D&D designs, even if you're rolling up a whole team of characters who are the same class. Don't let yourself be confined by the limits of the fantasy genre is what I'm saying. If you want to make a fashion-forward goblin rock star or an intern in a clown costume, you can literally just do it. No one can stop you. Have fun, I believe that's the point of the game. Anyway, with that bit of advice in mind, it looks like all of these artworks are complete. So, let's go ahead and see the full lineup. And there we have it, a colourful cast of bards all drawn up and ready to roll. That's all I've got for you today, but if you haven't had enough and you would like to see these characters in action, there are going to be new episodes of their game coming out over on the Shrieking Wizard Co. every Friday this month. I'll put a link to the whole playlist on screen right now if you'd like to check it out, and if you'd like to make a donation to the Bards4Bards charity drive, all the links and information you need to do that are down in the description. For now anyway, thank you very much for tuning into this video. I hope you had a good time, and I hope you are staying as safe, happy, and healthy as you possibly can. I'll see you next time.